Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I've got the wrong slide up. You're supposed to have the title slide up. That's better. 3 different things I'm currently interested in. Number 3, Mastadon.social. So if you've been watching my channel, you've seen that there's been a couple other videos where I've been talking about things that I've been interested in, technology-related stuff that are not necessarily specific to IT career kind of technologies, right? So this is not talking about how to build a resume. This is not talking about how to apply for tech jobs. This is not talking about the skills that you need, things like that. What this is about is things that are not directly related to career technology stuff, but are sort of ancillary to it. Things that are useful to be interested in. Well, I don't want to, not these specifically, but just the idea of being interested in additional things, I think is the useful bit. And these are some of the things that I've come across recently that I find interesting. And I thought I would share those with you. So Mastadon.social, much like a couple of the other things that I've recently shared, are distributed technologies. They're not run by a particular corporation, as in there's maybe a company that's behind developing it, but they don't own the specific servers that you are on. They don't control what you get to say. They don't have a monopoly on the protocol. That's sort of another way to describe these, is they're all protocols as opposed to individual implementations of things. So you can go ahead and potentially use other software to go do the same thing, which I think is how the internet was designed. And I think it's a better model. I think we've moved weirdly towards these apps that are siloed and separate and their own kind of ecosystem thing, whereas protocols like HTTP, protocols like SMTP, things like that allowed the internet to grow to what it is and built what we have now. And I think it's a much better way of doing things personally. So this is going to be another one of those. So this is Mastodon. Mastodon is a distributed social networking platform. It's an interesting idea. It's a little funky. I'm not sure if I love it or not. I think at this point, I probably don't love it, but I think it's okay. And I kind of actively dislike Facebook. I should dial that back. There's pieces of Facebook that I find very, very useful. I like the ability to go keep in touch with folks, but I don't like the monopoly that they have on things. And I feel that Facebook is particularly monopolistic. If you look at things like Instagram was a competitor to Facebook in a big sense. It was a social network that had features and functionality that Facebook did not have. And instead of building a better Facebook, Facebook bought Instagram, which is anti-competitive, in my opinion. And I don't love that. I really like pieces of the free market. I don't like everything about the free market, but I think the free market is generally pretty good at certain things. And that's not a very free market idea, just buying out your competition. You're supposed to beat them. You're supposed to be better than your competition. So that's something that I don't particularly love. Also, they've had data breaches. I mean, this is, I'm not going to even go into that because that's a whole thing that I think everybody is pretty much aware of. They've had a lot of kind of weirdness in recent years. So Mastodon is an alternative, right? So I'm logged in over here to Mastodon. This is the interface. We've got the server that I'm on, which is Mastadon.social, but there's a whole bunch of different servers. My user account here is @NickBernstein. Feel free to follow me on Mastodon. I should actually go update my little bio over here. Let me go do that. So let me go click on Mastodon. How do I go do this? People, profile, no, settings. Let's go ahead and see, edit profile. Here we go. Let's go ahead and select this. Why is that not working? All right, well, I can type that in. That shouldn't be too hard. So if I go ahead and double click this, I'm going to add Mastodon Social. And I'm going to go ahead and put at Nick Bernstein at Mastadon.social. Mastodon. Okay, cool. So now we've got a little thing in my bottom bar. So if you guys want to go ahead and follow me on Mastodon or send me messages that way, you guys now can do that because it's down in the little doobly-doo thing below the video. So you can go ahead and refer back to that. So I think one of the most interesting things about this is you can go in and click on data export. And you can go ahead and download basically everything you've done on Mastodon and say, you know what? I don't like Mastadon.social anymore. I'm going to go to Joe's Mastodon server and they can go run their own, or you can go run your own and you can go import that and you can go regularly back this stuff up and you have all of your information, all of the stuff that you've posted over the time, downloadable, exportable, something you can get out of that particular system because you say, you know what, I think they're doing something shady. I don't like them anymore. And you go ahead and move that to your own Mastodon server or wherever you like. That's kind of a cool idea. That's not something you can do on Facebook. It's probably before the time of a lot of people watching this channel. But you know, if you were to go back to the MySpace days, right, you couldn't just go ahead and export your stuff and import it to Facebook. Facebook had to write an app to go steal all of their information, which they did, and then blocked on their own terms of service, so nobody else could do that to them. They've always been a little bit shady. So, yeah, this is an interesting idea. So we've got Mastodon. If I go back over here, it looks a little bit like Twitter. I can go ahead and say this is Mastodon.social test message and click toot instead of maybe tweet. And we go ahead and see that show up on the local timeline. So the way that this works is you've got a timeline that's on this particular server, and then you've got a federated timeline. So a federated timeline basically combines the timeline of all of the Mastodon servers. So one of the things I could go do is I could go add a friend, and currently I don't think I have any friends on here, but I'm going to try to go add that to, well, maybe on this video, some of you guys will add me. And I could go ahead and specify that I wanted to go add somebody on a different server, and that could work out. So now I could go ahead and communicate with other people on different things. I could go ahead and, upload as this person did their cat pictures, which I think we all know is the most important use of all social media, is to show people pictures of our pets. So we could go ahead and do that. So that's kind of a cool thing. And the idea is that this is a tool that is not assigned to or not owned by a particular company. So this is not owned by Twitter. This is not owned by Facebook. This is not owned by Google. You can go run your own version of this if you so choose. And I think that's potentially a pretty interesting thing to do, right? If you're new to technology and you want a cool little project, well, I bet if we go back to Mastodon and we go to maybe apps, well, here we've got a whole bunch of different apps that we can go ahead and run on Android and iOS and web interfaces and such. But let's see if there's Mastodon servers. So you can go over here, see that there is a how to start a Mastodon server link. One of the first ones that came up pretty quick. Let me see if I went back here. Oh, I should change this. Let's go set this to DuckDuckGo because I like DuckDuckGo. Change my default over there. If you guys haven't used DuckDuckGo, they're pretty good. They're basically, I think, a front end to Google. But what they do is they sort of block out all the information that Google would gather on you. I should point out I'm really not like a tinfoil hat kind of person. These are very low barrier to entry kind of privacy things. I'm a little bit tinfoil hat, but not too much, I hope. So we can go over here. We can go look at the link that I had opened up in the other window. Mastodon server. Here we go. How to go start a Mastodon server. There's a couple links lower on the on this version. So this just goes through basically how to go ahead and set this up. You can then go ahead and go to joinmastodon.org, and you can go ahead and set this up. So kind of an interesting idea. So they communicate peer-to-peer. So it looks like they auto-join. I haven't set this up yet. I might go ahead and create my own little server. That might be an interesting little project to go ahead and do. But if you're somebody who is relatively new to IT careers and you want to go play around with Linuxy stuff, I think one of the best things that you can go do is give yourself a project. Don't just try to learn Linux, right? Don't just try to learn Python. Don't try to learn Go. Have a particular project that you are going to use Linux or Python or Go, or, depending on what kind of application, what kind of project you have something that you can go use to implement that thing. And then it gives you some incentive to actually learn it. So Mastodon is a cool one. And again, these are really useful for things like interviewing. When you go to your interview and they start talking about things like, well, what do you do in your free time? What should we know about you? They're trying to go figure out your personality a little bit. And one thing that can be super useful is to, see that the person who's applying for a job is so interested in technology that they do this stuff in their free time. And if you say something like, well, I really spend most of my time setting up Linux servers, it's like, okay, I mean, why? What are you trying to accomplish with this? You're just doing the same thing over and over again. If you say, well, I really like enjoying kind of playing with different distributions of Linux, so I spend a lot of time playing around with, and setting up, Mint this month and Gen 2 the next month, and you can get into conversations about what you like about each one of those. But another thing that you can go ahead and do is have a particular project, right? So if you're setting up a Mastodon server, they're going to say, oh, well, what is that? Well, you say it's pretty interesting. It's this distributed social media platform. You can run on a bunch of different operating systems. I run a Mastodon server. I've got a little Linux box that I set up, and it's all peer-to-peer. It's all encrypted. It's a pretty nice way of going and sort of being on a social network without necessarily giving all of your information to a company like Facebook so they can just advertise to you. That's the other thing about this. As far as I know, and it's may just be that I haven't seen any yet, but as far as I know, no ads on Mastodon, at least that I have seen yet. Now, I do have ad blocking DNS stuff running, so that kind of hides a lot of ads anyway. But so far, no ads on Mastodon. No little sort of square areas where the HTML is not rendering where ads are supposed to be that I have noticed. So, yeah, it's an odd little environment. So, interesting thing, something you can talk about in an interview and kind of get into. And just like with any other kind of project, when you're setting this up, it's probably not going to work 100% perfectly out of the box. So you're going to have to play around and you're going to have to bang your head on the desk a little bit. And banging your head on the desk is when you learn stuff. So not only is it good to talk about in your, sort of interview kind of pieces, but it's also something that's really, really good for you to talk about in real life. So that's kind of cool and learn stuff about. So if you're interested in learning more things and talking about technology stuff, stay tuned to this channel by subscribing. I'm sounding very YouTube-y on these recent videos. But yeah, subscribe down below if you like these in general. And if you like this particular video, hit the like button on this particular video and share with your friends, maybe on Mastodon, if you so choose to be on one of those servers. If you're on Twitter or Facebook, maybe share on those. Also, feel free to reach out to me with comments and questions. I just got an email from someone a little bit before I started recording this particular video, asking for some advice about how to go structure their resume and why they are having a hard time finding jobs. And I'm not always going to be able to reply back to those folks, but a lot of times I will. And if I can help you, I'll take a few minutes out to help you. I might also try to make a video of it so that people can see the advice that I've given you and apply that to their own things. So yeah, try to go ahead and look at that. So subscribe down below, keep in touch, comment if you've got any particular questions. If you're on Mastodon and you've had a good experience with it, or you have some other kind of alternative to Mastodon you think is interesting, comment down below. Also, if you have other applications that you've been playing around with that you find are interesting, let me know what you think of those. So otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Hopefully I'll see you in a upcoming video. And depending on when this is released, if it's still before the 31st of December 2018, I am doing a really tiny little giveaway to, because I've gotten to 100 subscribers on YouTube, which is just kind of a cool thing that I was really shocked by. So to say thank you, because I really do appreciate you guys who are watching these, to say thank you for that, I am giving away a little Raspberry Pi Zero, which is a tiny little credit card size, 300 megahertz-ish, ARM processor-based Linux box, single board computer that you can fit in your pocket and do cool projects with. Get GPIO pins, and you can go set up a thermometer on there and temperature sensor on there and write your own digital thermometer or whatever you want to go do. All sorts of really interesting stuff with that. So if you've been enjoying these videos, if you're already subscribed to the channel, go mention that you would be interested in the little Raspberry Pi giveaway on the video on my channel that is for 100 subscribers, and you will be added to the drawing. So if you're listed there in a comment, I will include your name as one of the people who can potentially win the little Raspberry Pi Zero. So watch that for the details. And thank you again for watching. Have a great rest of your day. I will finally shut up because I've been going on for way too long now. So have a good one. Bye-bye.